Gary, a few days after our elimination final loss to Sandringham, and today we'll firstly take a look at how that game unfolded before perhaps analysing season 2016 as a whole. What did you make of Sunday's result now that you've had some time to digest it?
Yeah, look, I've always had a philosophy, Sam, that what you don't do well during the home and away series then gets exposed in finals, because obviously they're bigger games and there's more that's on the line. So, and I thought that was pretty much us on the weekend. We've had, I guess, periods in that game where I thought we'd done some things reasonably well, but then there are other times where we were, I guess, uncompetitive and we were conditional in what we needed to do. And I guess if you go back to when we played Sandringham, it was about, round 16 or 17, thereabouts. Shenton didn't play because he played up for St Kilda, and obviously Trent Dennis-Lane was out injured, and Tom Lee spent a fair bit of time in defence until that last quarter. So if you nail those three, there's 12 goals between them, and of course we just couldn't get enough ascendancy for long enough periods, even though we had a reasonable go late in the third where we got back to 2 goals. And then, of course, it was, I guess, somewhat of a surprising decision against Chris Kane in the middle of the ground. Turnover. Obviously, they went back and Trent Dennis-Lane kicked that goal. So that put them 3 goals in front. And, yeah, we were really disappointing in the last quarter to allow them to kick 9 goals. So was it a lot of the players who probably had form queries going into the game, they certainly didn't play anywhere near their best. And when you're reliant on too few to get a job done, that was the penny section, really. They had lots of winners on the day. We had very few. And it was disappointing on both fronts, actually, because the development team also, too, played poorly against Williamstown. So a sad way to finish the season, mate.
In hindsight, would you have done anything differently from the point of view of game plan or team selection? And if not, where do you think it went wrong for us on Sunday?
Yeah, I wouldn't have done too much differently, mate, because we obviously had players that were injured through Wednesday to Sunday. So that meant that we obviously got to a point where I think we only had one available outside the group that we picked as far as the 46, and that was young Jaden Wilson. So there wasn't a lot to come in. What would I have done differently? Well, things that you can't control. Injuries to a lot of our key players, I think, were exacerbated when they came back late in the season, and those guys didn't have a lot of great form going into the game. Would I have done anything different? Well, you'd obviously look at our 9 weeks of travelling around the countryside. That's certainly what I would have done differently, because we obviously know that every single moment that we have, it's about trying to work with these players. And it's not an excuse, but it's a reason. And it's something that we obviously think we have over other teams, as being able to consistently train and play at a venue, but that wasn't to be the case. We obviously looked at, I guess, our key personnel from a structure point of view. We played all year without a ruckman, really, even though Khan was very good, but I mean a big ruckman. The game itself, I think it was lost primarily in our inability forward half to take contested marks. I think that was a damning statistic. At half time it was 1-10 their way, and then obviously that only got worse as the game got longer, because we got outmarked consistently in our defensive area and we got outmarked consistently in our forward half. So, yeah, we had a lot of guys that battled hard, but at the end of the day it doesn't win your finals.
And it wasn't much better news for the Development League, unfortunately, as you said, as their season was ended at the hands of Williamstown. But just linking that result to the season overall, certainly some positives to be found in terms of uncovering several promising youngsters who we hope will remain at the Borough for many years to come.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the key. We've obviously got to get our recruiting hats on now and get some really fast work happening, because I think that has been quite pleasing, as the way the development team was able to regroup after losing the first 4 rounds from memory. And I think guys like Hooper, Housel, Hobbs, Brevette, Urban, I think the 2 big boys in Wen and Smith have got big futures going forward within the club. I think we unearthed some really good young talent, and I'm hoping that they can hang around, because we did lose some of that, I guess, talent that we thought was going to take us possibly further because of geographical, I guess, living arrangements, the travel, and there were some kids that just couldn't, I guess, cut the mustard when needed be. I think we certainly need to have a really good look again at our list, because there were holes, from a point of view that we know, and no doubt we'll touch on those going forward. So the development team to probably be a sneaky chance, I guess, going into last week's final, but then it all sort of came crashing down due to probably some of the key personnel like Clark not playing, Rivette not playing. So what that then does, as I said before, it exposes your back sort of half a dozen, and none of those guys really played all that well. And of course then subsequently that flows on to your senior side as well. You're always a victim of how your best, I guess, group go, but also too, you're only as good as your bottom six, and we didn't get much out of those on the weekend.
And just from a review point of view as well, what will be the process for yourself and the players now that the year has ended? Do you analyse Sunday's game at all, or just forget about it and use it as a driving force entering pre-season?
You never forget about them. We'll certainly analyse it. Look, if you go on the raw facts, we improved from 7 wins to 11 wins this year. Obviously, both sides have made the finals. I don't think we ever were able to play our best side, so you'll look at what those types of reasons were. I think structurally, right down the spine, we need to have a really good look going forward, and that's key forwards who can mark. Obviously, a real genuine big ruckman, I think, will help us enormously. Even though we've got a couple of kids coming through, I think some guys that can stay over the ball and handle the, I guess, attack on the ball and not get flustered and lose the ball in tight. Guys that can show a little bit of pace going through there. I think our defensive end is not too bad in relation to trying to keep those personnel. Obviously got to look at who wants to stay and who wants to leave for whatever reason, and we'll go through the process again. We'll be in the process now of doing our exit meetings, and we'll then put a finisher on. Obviously the best and fairest is in a few weeks, so that'll put a close on the season, and then we'll have to do it all again in a couple of months' time.
And you mentioned that there's obviously going to be some decisions made over the coming weeks and months in regards to the future of some players and also recruitment for 2017. Are you able to shed any light on what that process might look like and what sort of players the club might be hoping to target to take that next step?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, a key ruckman who's got 200 plus centimetre size about him. I think certainly our midfield needs to get some more pace in there, because I think we can be a little bit predictable at times, and if we're not winning the ball and being able to be clean coming out of stoppages, I think that really exacerbates our style of ball movement going forward. I think contested marking, certainly forward, guys that can judge the flight of the ball, who can stay under the ball and if not bring it to ground. I certainly think our ability to use the ball coming off half back, without sort of, I guess, criticising anybody, Damien Mercedes probably uses the ball as best coming out of there, so we need to improve that area. And obviously we need to get some guys that can actually run the lines and be creative when they have got the ball. So I think there's a little bit of work to do. Certainly we think we've taken a step forward by playing finals again, but you don't want to exit out of the way we did. I think our momentum shifts in games. We need to be better composed with the ball and make the right decisions at the right time. So a lot of decision-making stuff. And going forward, we'll obviously look at what we think will give us a competitive edge, and I think that's going to be looking at the types of players with a real strong bent on mental resolve, because we failed to finish off a lot of games this year when we probably had the killer blow almost landed. Richmond comes to mind, Coburg comes to mind early days, Frankston comes to mind late in the season, so there's a little bit of work to do, and to get that group to actually gel, I guess connection-wise, will be a big emphasis on going over the season. And obviously pre-Christmas we'll probably look at skills, so there's a little bit involved.
Yep. Well, Gary, thanks for your time today, and also overall on Borough TV this year. Invaluable insights as always, which the fans and myself certainly do appreciate. Enjoy the off-season and best wishes for everything to follow.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'd just like to thank all our wonderful and loyal supporters. They're amazing. It was even quite touching there on Sunday, looking at Di as I was walking down the race, to see her really upset and crying. And we know how much that obviously means to our wonderful supporters and the ones that tune in to Borough TV all the time. We wouldn't be a club without you guys, and we no doubt know that you've put up with a little bit with having to travel down to Frankston and obviously out to Whitten Oval and things like that. So we're just so indebted to you guys, and we've just got to look forward to onwards and upwards for 2017.
Thanks very much, Gary.
Thanks, Sam.